Hi everyone and welcome back. Today I want to talk about the elections coming up. The Democratic primaries have been on, and I wanted to talk about which candidates might be sort of interesting. So honestly, I haven't voted for any Democratic or Republican candidates, mainstream ones, for the last few years, mostly because they don't cover any of the issues that are important to me. And if they can't even cover one issue that's important to me, they're just simply not going to get my vote. Two of the issues that are most important to me are a non-interventionist foreign policy. I just don't want to go to any more needless wars. And the second one is monetary policy. And I'm going to do some more videos on that later for those of you who are not libertarian, why you are going to want to understand how monetary policy affects your life and why it should be an important issue for you too. So if people aren't going to cover those issues, I'm just simply not interested. Other things that are matter to me are things like marijuana policy, privacy, the issues with Edward Snowden and Julian Assange and the big tech companies. So things like that are important to me, but the two main issues are monetary policy and non-interventionism by far. And the reason is because those are the two things that impact our pocketbooks more than anything else. Those are the two things that are impoverishing our countries, these endless wars, just money is flooding out of the country, and not to mention all of the lives that are lost. And the same thing with monetary policy. Our money has been devalued by 90% since the 70s, since we went off the gold standard, and that money is basically just taken right out of our pockets. It's called the inflation tax. So these are two things that are really impoverishing us, and at a time when we can't pay for basic things, like we can't afford good medical care and school and all of these other things, I think getting control of our money is the most important thing. So with that said, none of the candidates in the last few years from the Republican and Democratic mainstream have addressed any of those issues, and so they're just simply not going to get my vote. If you want my vote, you're going to have to address the issues that are important to me. So with that said, I was actually really surprised that recently a candidate emerged that was talking about not just one of those things that was interesting to me, but many of those things. And the best part about this candidate is that she can be appealing to both Republicans and Democrats, and also to libertarians. And her name is Tulsi Gabbard. She is from Hawaii, and she is in Congress, and she has been working on the Foreign Affairs Committee, and she is a staunch non-interventionist. And she wants to bring all the troops home. She wants to save the lives. She doesn't want to be doing regime change wars anymore. She doesn't want to be in Syria, Afghanistan. She doesn't want to go into Iran. She wants to use diplomacy. She wants to have be friends with other countries, trade with them, engage in diplomacy, and try to work out our issues without using bombs. This would save us an enormous amount of money, trillions of dollars, and it's probably the most important thing. But she should be appealed. So for that reason, she's the only anti-war candidate that's been around, in decades, aside from Ron Paul, who was dismissed as being an isolationist in the last some of the previous elections over the last decade. And she really is an important candidate for that reason. Nobody else is talking about non-interventionism. They basically all want to continue this neocon policy of just, invading everywhere, bombing everywhere. We have over 900 bases in over 130 countries around the world. This is just absolute pure insanity, and we have to pay for all of it. So, that's the main issue. That definitely appeals to Democrats. It appeals to libertarians. It appeals to some Republicans, though a lot of them, especially the neocons, are very much interested in an interventionist foreign policy. However, there are other things about her that appeal across the board. One is, especially to libertarians, it'll appeal to her. She wants to get rid of all the charges against Snowden. She wants to pardon him. She wants to get rid of the charges against Julian Assange. And she has said outright, charging Julian Assange is creating a chilling effect on free speech, which it absolutely 100% is. And then what are some of the other things? Oh, her marijuana policy. She wants to federally legalize marijuana. And not just that, she wants to expunge the records of everyone who has a marijuana-related crime who has not been charged with other crimes. So that for me is huge. Like, I don't want people to just legalize marijuana federally and then let's just pretend that none of that ever happened. It's like there should be an apology to all of the people who have been thrown in prison for a victimless crime, for all of those years. That's actually, she does use the term victimless crime. These are libertarian terms that you rarely ever hear anyone else using. So I think she's well aware of the different parties in the country and appealing to everybody on that account. Another thing that she's really good on is the environment, which is an important issue this election for a lot of people. For Democrats, it's one of their most important issues. Of course, this is something that is they're in contention with the Republican Party over. I think that Tulsi Gabbard is a good compromise between the Republicans and the Democrats. She wants to work towards a better environment, but one of the ways she wants to do it is by cutting the subsidies to oil and big agriculture and things like that. So libertarians can definitely get behind cutting subsidies. The other thing is, I think she'll definitely appeal to Democrats. She wants to do the whole, free college and free healthcare and all that stuff, which obviously is not going to appeal to Republicans and libertarians. However, one argument I would make to libertarians why this might be a good idea is it's kind of really Ron Paul's plan, which was initially just get rid of the warfare state, and then when you have a freer market and prices can come down, you can start providing private options for people, and they'll prefer to be on the private option than the welfare state. And so, then you can ultimately start dismantling the welfare state. So she is one big step towards a more libertarian society. But she's also giving the Democrats a lot of what they want now. But she's doing it by taking the money from the warfare state and the subsidies and channeling that into, the free stuff pile, which, is a lot better than what the rest of the socialist candidates want to do, which is just like take money from God knows where. I mean, it's obviously going to be from our pockets and fund it that way. So definitely a good option in that sense. I think she definitely appeals to Republicans too, because she was in the military, served in Iraq, and combat veteran, worked in a medical unit, saw up close the horrors of war. That's really appealing to a lot of people, particularly Republicans. She very much loves her country. She, has a lot of those same values that Republicans have. So I think people definitely should take a look at her. She's polling on the lower side right now, as are the vast majority of the candidates. But she is getting a lot of support, and she has been in all of the debates. She has reached the level to be able to enter into all of those, and hopefully she'll be in the next round too. I think she's definitely worth taking a look at. Everyone else seems honestly like pretty boring. Like, none of them would get my vote. The only other interesting thing that's happening is allegedly Bill Weld is running on the Republican side against Donald Trump, though of course you never see that in the media. He's another candidate that I would consider. He's an interesting guy because he's a Republican, but he served in Massachusetts, which is a very liberal state, and he did a really good job cleaning up a lot of issues that were there at the time, and he has since become much more libertarian, which would be appealing to liberals because, of course, libertarians are very socially liberal. And he also was pretty ahead of his time on things, especially for a Republican. I believe he was really pro-LGBTQ way early on, before it was even a national conversation, and also I believe he was pretty early on marijuana. So there's some interesting candidates, and then obviously we're going to have the Libertarian Party candidates will come out soon, and there's other parties too. Green Party is usually around. So, but in terms of the mainstream candidates who are most likely to win, it's usually just Democrat or Republican. Those are the only choices we have, and honestly, this time around, she's the only candidate that stands out to me as being a real option for the values that I have, which are very much fiscally conservative and socially liberal. Let's tighten the purse strings and get our financial house in order, and let's have social and economic freedoms, and I think most people agree with that. So yeah, anyway, take a look. I will link some stuff down below, and hope you will take a look at her and consider her. And I will see you guys all next time.